Yay.
We're on.
Okay, cool. Welcome everybody. A few of you can comment, and we can see. We can't see the audience, so it would be nice if you say hello. While Justin is here, just say a big shout out to you, Justin. Thank you for this talk, and welcome to Fitza's talk. This is managing Figma, building a robust design system infrastructure. Maybe Justin will give some insight into this. He's also helped the company that I work for a little bit. This is just a consistent topic that comes up, is how to manage things in Figma, so that you help everybody on the design team down to the developers just execute better and understand where what is and how to do it. Very valuable. I think this is probably like the third time we're doing a version of this. So thanks again, Justin. I'm just going to go back to this screen. I just quickly, I say it every time there's a talk, but we've rebranded Fitza a little bit, and we've getting a very good response to it. We had some other people join in, and the community got bigger. So years ago, Justin and Skalk had all were running the Fitza front-end developers, South Africa. And then later down the line, I was looking for a place for product design, and I couldn't find anything. And we created Zapped, and then we also had some other people involved, and we started including some of what they do, which is mental health in tech and beginner support. So these are kind of our pillars that we focus ourselves around. Hello. And if anybody wants to contribute, you're always welcome to contact us. We've got a Discord community. I'll quickly just throw some links in here. My links does not want to post, Justin, but we'll find a way to put it on there. You're muted.
Pop them in our private chat, and then I'll put them in.
Okay, so we moved. We haven't completely shut Slack down yet. We're just keeping it going in the background a little bit, but we've moved everything over to Discord, and the community is slowly growing over there. So if you want to join, please use that link I posted. We've launched a newsletter. We are looking for contributors to the newsletter as well. It's a nice opportunity if you want to play your hand a little bit at writing something applicable to the communities. You're welcome to put your hand up and chat to us about it. We could also feature you if you contribute to the newsletter. So that's going to be cool. It's going to be once a month, I think on the last Friday of the month. And then the next event coming up, Ask Me Anything, for the front-end development. No, it's front-end development, that one, I think so.
Yes, Thursday.
Yes.
Me again.
Again. Thanks. Then just quickly a shout out to our sponsors. And we are also looking for more sponsors. Everybody in our community volunteers their time, except for one or two people that has to crunch the numbers and do a lot of admin. So the two companies that sponsor us at the moment is IO, product startup builder company, and then NML, which is the company Justin is from, just a specialist financial services development company. There is the email there. I don't know. For me, it looks like there's something over it, but the sponsorship contact email is joshua@fetsa.org. This is just the title of our talk today: Managing Figma, Building a Robust Design System Infrastructure, and a little bit about Justin. It's also in the write-up on Meetup. Justin, you can do a deeper dive if you want, but he is head of design and front-end development at NML. His domain is there at the bottom, justinslack.com. And then NML is also there for reference. And then, okay, the questions. If you've got questions, regardless of if you're in YouTube or LinkedIn, you could just post a comment and we'll be able to see it. And then if it's something applicable to what Justin is saying at that point in time, we'll kind of stop and maybe address it. If it's something relating to the bigger topic, we'll leave them for the end, and then we'll take it from there. I don't know if I missed anything.
All good?
No. Nothing in the comments for now? No. Okay, cool. Then I'll leave it to you, Justin.
Thanks, Liesl. Yeah, hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. As Liesl mentioned, I'm going to be talking about kind of organizing your Figma in the best way that you can. Or let me just say that this is very much based on what I've learned at my company over the years about managing many different projects. We are a services business, so we work for a lot of clients, and we structure our Figma around that kind of principle as what kind of business we are. So you might find that you are a product company and you wouldn't necessarily organize things in the same way, but the general principles will still apply of the things I'm going to go over. Okay, I'm going to be speaking to my screen on the left. So if I'm not looking directly at the camera, that's the reason for it. Yeah, as Liesl mentioned, I'm head of design and front-end at NML. I've been working there for a long time. And we have quite a large design and front-end team that we spend a lot of time in Figma. So it's really important to us to keep it well organized, to allow us to develop and ship as easily as we possibly can. Okay, so I'll just share my screen. I think I'll put us at the bottom because my text is a bit small in places.
Oh, that's hundreds.
Okay. Yeah, so I did all these Figma slides and then I realized, hey, my text is way too small. Rookie design error. So I'll zoom in as much as I can. I just have a few slides and then I'm actually just going to get into Figma itself and show how we organize things. I'm going to be focusing on our internal projects because NDAs and whatnot, I can't show a lot of client work in this forum, but we structure our internal projects as if we were working for a client as well. So it'll show you everything you need to know there. Okay, so the first thing I just wanted to talk about is one of the things that you need to be very cognizant of in Figma is roles and what they mean. Yeah, and for the simple reason, and Liesl will attest to this, Figma's billing practices are like a black hole. They're dark patterns and you need to be really careful with them. So I've just prepared something here to indicate like what are the different roles, and let me just zoom in on this. So don't worry about the things on the left, not too important. I'll make this available to everyone afterwards if you are interested. So there are really four roles in Figma, and those are owner / admin, editor, viewer, and guest. And a whole lot of permissions are attached to those. So any one of those people can view and they can comment on files and prototypes. But only an admin, an owner, an editor can actually edit files. And by edit files, we mean create and edit files and create projects. Then in terms of resources, we lock this down. Only the owner or the admin can manage shared assets. So people can't just go and install plugins or fonts or libraries or whatever. That needs to go through an approval process. And I'll speak a little bit about the reason for that. Now, where it gets tricky to manage is that anyone who's an editor can invite new members to the team and they can assign roles to that person. So as soon as you invite an editor, you're going to pay for that seat and it's immediate. Yeah. So you need to be really, really careful about how you're managing these things. And I'll go through some settings that everyone who manages Figma on an organizational level needs to be very, very aware of. If you aren't aware, Figma have just increased their prices as well as of the end of February. So what you have been paying for, you're going to be paying a bit more. So which makes it even more important just to keep an eye on these kind of billing practices. Yeah. You need to lock this thing down and you need to watch it like a hawk so as to not get any nasty surprises at the end of your billing period. They will not
I think, Justin,
refund you.
are you on an organizational plan?
Yeah, we're on an organization plan. Yeah. So I just wanted to mention that this is what I'm talking about now is on the organization plan. You might find that you're on a professional plan, which is one below this. And some of the things I will mention might not be available to you on a professional plan. But in terms of organization, the same kinds of things still apply. And then, of course, there is also the, what's the one above organization?
I think enterprise.
Enterprise,
Enterprise,
yes.
I
So
think.
enterprise is for like really, really large organizations, your Spotify's and Airbnb's and whatnot. Would all be on enterprise plans.
I don't know if it's changed, but the professional one used to be you can still pay monthly. What the
Yes,
organizational one is, they start
it's
charging you
yearly.
annually, and that's
Yes,
the problem. Is if you
that's
don't
right.
have this sorted out, and you have somebody on there that only needs it for a week, you're going to pay for them for a year. So
For a year.
that's
That is right.
yeah.
Correct. That's why this becomes very tricky, tricky to manage in that sense, because sometimes you do need to give that kind of permission to someone. Yeah. What Figma is introducing with their new plans is a collaborator seat, where you can on organization comment. That feels like Adobe model. You are absolutely correct. It is exactly like that. What they are introducing is I think they call it a collaborator seat, where you can pay for someone for a period of time only, but that's all going to come in with the new billing, and there's still some uncertainties around that. But just, I mean, I'm just saying, if you're on an organization plan, lock the thing down like as tight as you can, and I'll show you settings and things that you can do on that to make sure you don't get a nasty surprise. They also have this thing called the true up, which is every 3 months. If you add someone within a 3-month period, then you get a bill for that as well, which can also just lead to some nasty surprises. Okay. All right, so I'm just going to talk about, get into how we structure things, and I've got some screenshots from our Figma here, and we'll look at them in some more detail. So we structure around teams at NML, and anyone at NML can join that team as a viewer if they have an NML email address. So if they sign up for Figma with an NML email address, they automatically get viewing rights, but only viewing rights. You'll see here we've got 47 members on 14 teams. We are not paying for 47 editors. We are not that kind of company. That is 47 members at NML who can view, who have viewing rights. And you'll see that we have 3 admins. That's another thing. Make sure you have more than one person who has admin rights, because if something were to happen to me, for example, someone else needs to have those rights. So always have that kind of backup plan. So we structure our teams around our clients. So you can see we have our various clients here, and each client is a team. And where we say members, those are editors or developers who have developer mode access, as members of those teams. So that's not viewers. Anyone can view and comment. So our structure is around teams structured per client, and anyone can join that as a viewer, but you need to request to join by an owner or admin. And this just makes sure we don't accidentally add any additional editor seats. Okay, so that's teams. So teams is our top level hierarchy. And then within a team, we have projects. So a team will group related projects in a single space. And here's one of our clients. I'm not going to show you any of the designs, but just so you can see how this is structured. This is Net Group Investments. And we have this broken up into different projects that we are working on with Net Group Investments. So their public website is a single project. We also have something called work in production. And you probably can't see this very well, but we've got a little tag on those that says archived on the cover page. That means it's in production, it's archived, and we move it out of our work in progress. We have the secure dashboard, planning, staff support, forms, etc., etc., etc. So that's all structured that way. So what we do is we have a project per kind of item at work or feature or epic, and that's at a team level, and it's organized around statements of work. So, for example, in 2024, we redid Net Group Investments' entire onboarding flow, and that was a project on its own for onboarding. Archive, we put projects that are completed or in production or are no longer relevant. And then our research community files, etc., live in an exploration project also on their own. Yeah. So we don't mix these things up if we can help it. Okay, so team and then projects. So within a team, we would have those various projects. Then within a project, we would have files. So this is an internal project that we're working on. It's which I'll be showing mostly referring to this evening to show how these things are done. And so this is an internal project where we're building out our own financial services product. But each project would follow this kind of description. So we've got a library file that is added at a project level, and it's available to all files in a project. It's published and it's made available. The project file is the ultimate source of truth for a project. Wireframes, if required. I'm not going to talk about why I think wireframes usually aren't required. That's another talk, which people get annoyed with me about. And then any research always just goes in a FigJam file. Yeah. So we used to use Miro, but we replaced Miro with FigJam, so we can have everything within the same application and not have to move between those. And we found that FigJam pretty much, covers all of our needs.
We also did that.
UX. Yeah, makes sense. All in one place. Yeah. One thing with the new Figma billing as well is that FigJam's not going to be a separate billing cost anymore. It's going to be included in an editor seat, as will Figma slides. Yeah. So that's a good development in terms of that. So you'll see here, we've got a slides file. This is our slides. Unfortunately, you can't add nice cover images to them yet, but you'll see all of our files have a cover image, and I'll speak to that as well. So this is our Figma file. This is our library. These are our wireframes, and this is our FigJam with all our research and exploration, user flows, etc. Okay. And then, so we've gone teams, projects with, am I saying that right? Yeah. Our final one that we've got, that now this isn't moving on, is within a file. Okay, so we're also quite strict about how we organize files. So FigJam, again, didn't used to have this. They do have it now, maybe from a year ago, is that you can now add pages in FigJam. And that makes a big, big difference to how you can organize things. So in our FigJam would look like something like this, yeah, where we would have everything in its own page for what we are doing exploration on. And yeah, we would never put a transaction flow in an onboarding page, for example. Always keep it separated so you know what you're looking at. So it makes it really easy to link out to things when you need feedback. A project file, again, we have features organized by page. we use dividers, which in Figma, if you create a new page and then you hit 3 dashes and it automatically creates a little divider for you. All exploration, like where we might be working on, or maybe we should try this, maybe we should try that, goes in its own page. Yeah, we never put exploration in an actual page that might at some point go to dev. None of that can live in there to minimize confusion. And whenever something is ready, it's always marked as ready for dev, without fail. So we know, developers know what they can come in and look at, and dev mode will only show them things that are marked as ready for dev. Something that you get on organization level is branching. So we use branching, but not too much. Anyone who's developer would be familiar with Git, pretty much the same kind of, very much the same kind of process. But we do find that if you've got a really complex file with many, many screens, branching can be super slow and not always worth what you're going to get out of it. And documentation is sometimes better. But one thing that's really neat is archived history snapshots. And I'll show an example of how to do that as well. Just using the Figma's auto snapshot that it takes for version histories to create easily findable archives if you want to go back to some earlier exploration. So our file would look something like this. As you can see here, we've got file name, and we've got pages for each section, and that would more or less mirror what we've done research on in FigJam. Playground file, and then we've got dividers wherever we go. Now, I've seen a lot of people put little emojis and things next to the files. We don't bother with that. It's just extra work, and then you've got to go be consistent across every file. What a dashboard emoji, etc. I mean, if you like that, great, go for it. Just found it's generally perhaps a little bit more work than it's worth. But a general file would look like this. You can see we've got 5 screens that are 5 pages that are ready for dev, and those are marked by the little HTML mimicking angled brackets. So dashboard is still in progress, reports and profile are still in progress, but these are all ready for dev now. Yeah, so that's how we structure that a client as a team, projects within that, files within that, and then always structured files around pages. Can't tell you how many times I've seen a Figma file that is 1 page with like 100,000 screens in it. That's very, very hard to work and manage stuff like that. Just create a new page whenever you need to. Pages are free. So try and do that if you can. Okay. I'm just going to go and switch over to my admin section to show a couple of things here. So Gideon says, we use branching like there's no tomorrow in the design system. Yeah, I mean, if branching works for you, great. It's definitely got a lot of nice ways to especially if you've got a lot of designers working on the same thing. Yeah, branching is a godsend for that. Yeah. Okay, I'm not going to show you billing and all of that, but here you can see here all our teams. I am the owner on all of them except 2, and here's a small quirk on Figma. If someone, one of my senior designers who has now left NML was kind of the, shall we say, second in command of running the Figma. And she had permissions to create teams because why wouldn't she? She has now left NML. She is no longer part of Figma. And the 2 teams that she created, we can't assign an owner to. And you'll see if I go here and I go settings, can't do it. This is a quirk of Figma, and I've actually raised it with their support.
Do you need to reassign the team before you take them off?
Yes,
Figma.
something we
Okay.
learned the hard way. Yeah.
Google Workspace has a similar thing. You can't
Yes, it's
move
very
meetings
annoying.
to
Yeah.
another person afterwards. You've got to
Yeah.
move all the meetings and then, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so our teams are structured, again, as I said, per client. And you can see the number of projects attached to each one and the members. And if I go here and I look at that, you can see view projects, etc., manage, transfer, delete, leave, and so on. And I can create a team whenever I want to. I can also download all the activity on the team by clicking this button. I'm not going to do it, but it will show me everything that's been happening. So if people are, downloading Figma files to their private things that they shouldn't be doing, it will tell you. Okay. All right, so that's our team structure. Then I'm just going to go to settings and show a couple of things here. So public link sharing. So a couple of things here. So allow links to be shared outside your organization. This is something that we have on because we share links with our clients and they aren't part of our organization. Our organization is anything related to @NML as a domain, but we do share those. And then FigJam open sessions. Those are very useful if you're doing workshops with clients and you're running them in FigJam. You can open that file for 24 hours and anyone can comment and contribute to that. But this again depends on your organization policies, in terms of data sharing and so on. So just be a little bit careful with that. Make sure you're not breaking any kind of data sharing things that you might have. Also be careful with sharing links that accidentally give people who have that link access to other things, because that can also happen. Yeah. So just be a little bit careful of that. Domains, I'm not going to go through that. I'm not going to go through any of these things, except default seat type. This is very important. You have to make sure that this is set to viewer restricted. Yeah. If it's set to full, then as soon as someone is added to something, they will be added as an editor automatically. Yeah. So important to not allow that. And then viewer also has its pitfalls. So if someone is a viewer, anyone who's an editor can upgrade them. Okay. So again, be super careful with that. Viewer restricted is always the way to go. That means you're making sure that someone needs an admin approval to upgrade. Yeah.
And you get a request.
So viewer restricted. And you get a request, yeah. And related to that, seat upgrade digests. I have set this to be informed daily if there's any.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
It works.
If there's any upgrade requests, yeah, because you get them. Yeah? You share something with an external person, a client or whatever, and they try and edit something, and that automatically kicks off a request. Yeah, so be super careful about this. So I just said this, just send me this daily if it happens. Yeah. Okay, plugin approval. Only admin approved plugins are allowed. But members can request plugins. Now, the reason for this is that there are thousands of Figma plugins. We deal with very sensitive data in financial services. Yeah. And plugins are often, they're getting access to your data a lot of the time. So you need to be super careful about what you allow. If you have any kind of NDA, with any client or anything like that, just be very, very aware of what plugins you're using and check what data plugins collect. So Figma enforces that plugins must declare what data they collect, yeah, and what they have access to. So just be careful about that. The other reason why I'm not very keen on plugins is that we shouldn't be using any plugins that our designs become dependent on. So if you're using a plugin to build a table, Yeah, your design becomes dependent on that table plugin, table builder plugin. Plugin goes away, or it stops working with another version, or so on and so on, and then you are stuck with things that could potentially stop working. So be very careful just around those things. That's why we have very, very few plugins that are enabled, mostly around accessibility and not much more than that. Okay, so only admin approved, and the same with widgets. We do the same thing with that. Very easy to go, oh, let me install this widget because it's going to save me a lot of time, but that widget is getting access to all your data, so be super careful. Okay, dev mode settings, again, this is only available on an enterprise plan, so probably not applicable most of the time. We don't have anything that we can change here. All right, here's another one. Let your organization use Figma's AI features. Now, we've turned this on, but we have very strict rules about what you can use it for. So there's one thing where if you, in Figma slides, if you're creating a slide, you can tell the Figma AI to create presenter notes for you, which is great. That kind of thing is very useful. But yeah, other than that, not much done there. And then content training, let Figma use your content to train AI models. Okay, now if you have an NDA of any kind, you make sure this is off. You cannot be allowing Figma to be using proprietary stuff in any way to train their AI models. Okay, yeah, there's not much else that you need to know here. Just if you ever want to see Compliance Hub. Now, the Compliance Hub is a Figma site that you can go to that will tell you exactly where all your data is stored, and you can download all of that if it's anything you need. It might be something that you might need for clients in terms of data that is sharing. And you can also change storage location if from the United States or the EU or whatever, but you need to contact them for that. Okay, so those are just some settings. I mean, the most important one is those, default seat type and upgrade requests. Make sure you're setting those to minimize anything that might come through that. Okay, the other thing you have access to is activity. So you can see here who's been doing what, viewing, editing, etc. And this is also downloadable. I can see that one of my front-end developers is working at 6:28 p.m., as in right now. I should probably have a word with her about that because it's after hours. She's working too hard. So she's, as you can see. All right, so yeah, activity will give you all that. And you can look at all these events as well. So you can see, okay, who's exported a file and when. So if someone's, exports a PDF or creates a PNG or whatever it might be from anything, you can see all of those. Things in. There's so many things you can actually just filter activity on. So that's a good thing, just to keep a track of things that are going on. Right, resources. This is where all your libraries will live, and you can assign libraries as defaults and things. So we have one library here called Figma cover templates, which I'll show everyone in a little minute. And this library, we say this is automatically attached to all design files and all FigJam boards. Okay, so as soon as you create a new file, you have access to this library. Yeah, and you can do that for any library. You'll see here again, file has no owner. That was because it was created by my designer who left. So dropping the ball there a little bit on like reassigning stuff before people leave. A lesson learnt. It doesn't matter. As admin, I can do whatever I like with it, but just something that we need to, just keep an eye on that. So you can see, and then it'll also tell you, okay, how many components do you have? How many styles do you have? So you can see our Ned Group Investments library has got 193 components and 162 styles, and that's because there's like 9 projects and products that are available for that. So, but we wouldn't enable this by default, because it's only for one project. So that's not enabled by default. So you can manage that in this way. You can also upload custom fonts that might be needed for clients. Of course, you need to be aware of licensing and so on. So we have a few that are uploaded. Only admin can do this, but once you add the fonts, they're available to all your designers. But just be careful with that. You don't want to be violating any font licensing things, because those are draconian. And then approved plugins. You can see we've just got a few approved widgets, just a post-it note, adding status to something, and an accessibility checklist. So we don't use a lot of plugins. Right. Okay, so that's all the admin stuff. I'm just going to go back to my dashboard here, and you can see here, this was in the teams overview that I showed earlier, and you can see all our teams are here. What we also do is we create a little file with an icon and the brand color for each team, and we upload that just so we can easily recognize it, because we have quite a few. And then you also notice when I hover over them, there's this little star there that allows you to add a project to your sidebar. So you can add any of these to your sidebar. The Figma sidebar is not automatically populated with anything. You have to do it, but you can add, new sections. So you can do, I can do demo or whatever, and then you can drag things into that particular. I must misspelled that. Let me rename it. So I can call this demo, and then you can add things to that. You can drag things around into different spaces and so on. And if you want to add something to the sidebar, you can just click that little star and it will add it. Now it's telling, do I want to remove it? I don't, but it's, that's just the opposite effect. Okay, you can also view your teams. So any team that you belong to. So within NML, we might have front-end developers, for example, on a team. You'll see this one has 10 members because we've got quite a lot of developers working on that. But they would only see that when they come to the team because it's the only one they're assigned to. And then if you build your custom plugins and widgets, they appear here. We haven't built any of our own yet. Okay, so I'm just going to go into our NML internal projects because I can show you this without any fear of violating any NDAs. So as you can see here, we've got these sections. So we've got our financial services software as a service project. We've got our team library, exploration and resources that lives in that. Praise, that's just an internal project that we work on. And then a whole bunch of things like our website, our email signatures, all the internal design work we do, and then a bunch of stuff that's just been archived. Right, so one of the things we have is our cover template file, and this is a library that's saved as a library, and we've got a component here, cover template, with 2 things for Figma or FigJam, and then we've got a bunch of statuses for in progress, impeded, etc., etc., etc. is it a Figma or a FigJam file? Does it have an active ticket number, or does it belong to an epic? And these are just components that are available to any file. So if I just create a new design file, you'll see, and I go to assets, you'll see my Figma cover templates immediately available to me in that library, and I can just click on that and insert an instance, and I just make it a frame, and I can go and make selections to whatever I want to here. I can add my project title, I can add who's working on it, I can add a ticket number or an epic name or whatever it might be, and then set that as the thumbnail. Okay, so this is like just every time you create a project, do this. We do this, so everything is available and easy to look at. And we update these as they go along. And we have the various statuses. So we have impeded, as in we're still waiting for stuff. Archived, as in we finished with it. Ready for dev, meaning the developers could come into it. With client, meaning it's gone for review, design review with a client, or it's in production, meaning it's built, but it's not ready for archive yet. And yeah, if we in FigJam, then we just would make it a FigJam icon to indicate that. We do have a story on our board to update the Figma logo to the FigJam logo when you select it, but that's not on the high on the list of priorities. Yeah, so that's just always available to any project, and you just need to update that. Okay. What we also have is a design system getting started file, and what this is all our design guidelines in one place, and as a reference for our designers, and it's just kind of a how-to, but also these are the practices we expect you to follow. So color systems. I'm not going to go through this in great detail. I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. So how to structure colors, how to work with typography, just a general. Let me just get rid of the UI here, so we can zoom in a bit. So just a general, this is how we should be doing things when we're creating styles and so on. Naming conventions, what we prefer, spacing conventions, and how we should set those up. Here's a nice tip. Change your nudge amount from 10 to 8, and then shift and an arrow key will always move by 8. Saves you a lot of time. Icons, yeah. So we are quite. We use an icon library called Lucide Icons. We do not use anything else. That's the only icon library that's allowed. Note, they will be deleted. That's me being heavy-handed. But the reason for this is that our front end is always built in React and usually Next.js, and Lucide is very much built to work just fantastically well with those. So we use, we make sure that we use Lucide, and yes, just some examples. So this is from the Lucide library. It's one of the plugins that we do actually allow, because the whole library is available, and the React packages follows the Figma naming exactly. So the developers, it's so easy for them to use. So that's what we do there. Inputs, we have a whole how to build input libraries with a component example. So these kinds of things are easily just reproducible. So you could literally just copy this component section into your new library and have a quick start. You'll see we've got a bunch of properties on that as a, it's all just a proper component that can be reused. How to do, special inputs with icons, etc. And again, these are all components with those various properties and so on. And then just some general guidelines, like don't use disabled inputs because they don't, etc., etc. Things on buttons, exactly the same kind of thing, like a complete component set that can be reused. Links, we don't like disabled buttons and reasons why, and so on. And then, components best practices. So I'm not going to go over all this, there's a lot, but things that we prefer you to do, like sequential layer organization, layer naming, text layout, why you should use frames and not groups, what properties, styles, when should you use styles, and some additional things, and then a section on variables. Now, variables are pretty new to Figma, so we're very clear that it's a work in progress, and that, when should you be using variables, how can you map them, and so on. And then we just have a small example within this file itself on examples on using variables within your particular design library. So that's like a getting started file. So we take all these principles into building a library. So our library would generally look something like this. And you can see here we've got our cover, always. Who's working on it? In this case, well, everyone. It's everyone's responsibility in the design team who's on this project to work on the library, and to do updates to it. So we would start with, color mapping, and something that we always do is like, okay, this is how we need to map these for tokens. So we need to be defining our semantic tokens and things like that, and we document that for developers. We never want in the front end dark blue, that's no good. We want primary or brand or whatever it might be. So there's all guidelines on that. Fonts, we always map out all our typography, and that these are styles, and you can see we've got all these styles here, and we follow that stylistic these stylistic rules. So if I go into light, you can see we've got a property, a font family, a weight, a size, a line height, and a letter spacing, and that is then called light. That lives under body. So body 16 light. So if I go in here and I go to body 16 light, you can see that is now being applied as my type style, body 16 light. And we use that everywhere. So we have a very specific naming convention, and we generally go headings, body, and then caption. And caption is for much smaller bits of text, but always indicate this is the font family, this is the size, this is the line height, this is the letter spacing. And then if we're using a stylistic set, which is to kind of get into the weeds of typography, Liesl knows that's something I talk about a lot. If we're using a stylistic set, then we need to indicate, okay, in this case, we're using the default G for this. We're not using any of the other ones. So important to just include those kinds of things in your typography. We work a lot with numbers, obviously in financial services. So we need to do a check on all our typography. What should our numbers look like when they're big, when they're small, when they're in a caption, and so on. And then here again, we are doing our, tokens. So these are what would go in our front end for the developers to set up as reusable tokens and variables based exactly on what we outline here. Okay, icons, as I said, we're using that Lucide library, or Lucide, I don't know how you pronounce it, but we always break them up into different kinds of icons, yeah? Otherwise, you end up with, I don't know, 60 icons on a frame, in a frame or a section, and it's really hard to like piece them together. So in messaging, yeah, we've got 4 icons only, yeah? And these are also always created as components, and so that they can be assigned easily. And if I select one, I think that's going to work. We probably locked them, no doubt. We have locked them. Okay, no matter. And my scrolling isn't working. Hang on. There we go. Yeah, so those are locked in there. But you'll see there, check. And if you look here, we've got our icon set up as a component name. That's and that matches exactly the Lucide icon name always. So when the front-end developer needs it, they know they just import check from the Lucide library and they're done. Easy. So we always structure them like that. So I keep getting confused with my screen. Excuse me. There we go. Yeah, so we always just break those out into different sections for where they might be used. Yeah. Right. Note also this is marked as ready for dev, and that means that the developers can come in and start to use that. Right. So that's icons. Sure. Liesel, am I running out of time? Am I going too long?
Well, yeah, it's 52 minutes past 6, so you're almost at an hour.
Okay. Okay. Okay, so look, I'm not going to go through the whole library. It follows the principles we set out in the design guidelines. You can see we've got, our buttons, our links, navigation, inputs, etc., etc., etc. These things get huge. They're an enormous amount of work to do, but the amount of time they save is immense. Now you might notice there's a little blue dot here. That means something's changed. And there are 10 changes that have happened on this project since it was last opened. And I can publish, 9 changes. I can publish those updates if I need to. I'm not going to do it now. It takes a while. Yeah. So yeah, tags, tooltips, messaging, cards, graphs. Yeah, so these are all components that we have in our library. Now, just something on a library, don't put every single thing from your UI in a library. Be careful about what's reusable and what's not. So don't create a component for all your text styles. That's just a style that you can apply anywhere. It doesn't need to be a component or anything like that. Okay, right. So I'm just going to switch over to where we're actually using this. So you can see here my assets, and in this we've got our covered templates and our libraries, and here are all the things here. So if I click on icons, you can see there all our libraries, our icons that have been added in our library. And if I go to the file, and I'm going to go to invest, and it's going to show one thing here that's important to note. So wait, let me go to products first, rather. So I'm going to go to products, and we can see here we've got our ready for dev, and that's our little green icon that's saying this is ready for dev. Great. Now I'm going to go back to invest, and you'll see here we also have ready for dev, but it's now yellow. Okay, it's now yellow. So what does that mean? Well, it means that it's changed since it was marked ready for dev. And there's a comment I made here to my developer who is still working. And what happened was I just added to our component, I added here our help text. Yeah. So that's changed. So what we can do now is we can go up here, and if I click on this, it's going to say design has changed since marked as ready for dev. Yeah. So what we always do here is we make sure to add, I'm just putting in here what's changed. And I'll say done with changes, and that's now gone back to green. Yeah, so it'll only go back to green if you indicate what's actually happened. And that's super helpful for developers, because now if I go to dev mode, I have this compare changes option here. And I can compare with previous versions. And it's going to do a check for changes and show me, there we go. We can see there on exactly that screen what's changed. And you can overlay them. And you can see it's telling me there a comparison, exactly what's changed. So very important in those terms to always make sure that you are following up on what might have changed in the library or anything like that once something developers are working on something. And one last thing I just want to show, because I fear I'm running out of time or going over time, is if you've set up your components correctly, when your developers come in here and select something that's a component. So here I've selected our input. You'll see here they have this option here, open in Playground. And if we open that, and this is a properly set up component, they can go through this and see exactly what all the props they need to be building on for this are. So you can see here, we can say, okay, what's my filled state? And you can see that's going to update. They can see what's the error state. They're going to see what's the success. They're going to see what's the disabled. They can see default, and let's add an info icon. Okay, so we've got a little bit of a problem there in our library. It's not working too nicely because that should be left aligned. They can see what it looks like with an icon, and they can see what it might look like if we have different themes. Yeah. So if you structure your components correctly and nicely, your developers are getting all of this extra stuff that they can then use to go through and find in dev mode. They don't need to go into the library to figure this out. But they can also do that as well. They can collect that and then just go and open that in the library if they wish to. Yeah. Go to main components. That's going to take me to the component, and it's going to show me in the library exactly what that looks like. So if you're setting up components this way, it makes your developers' lives 1,000 times easier. Okay, there was one other thing I wanted to show, but I don't know this time. And that's just around a neat archiving trick. Okay, so here we've got our playground file, right? Now, often what we want to do is we don't need this anymore after a while, yeah, and it can clutter up our things. So what we can actually do is we can go and we can publish stuff to our version history, yeah, and that means we can create an archive within our files where we might keep things that we no longer need. So I'm just going to open this one. I'm going to say show version history. And you can see here, version 27 January 2025. And there I've said removed logo. So if I go back to this one, you'll see now we have this archive page. And within that, we have this logo section, which I removed because we didn't need it. And that's in my version history. So you can use the save to version history function for creating snapshots that are much easier to find than crawling through, I don't know how many versions to try and find something. Yeah. So you can always name your version history by going save to version history, which is it's just a really useful tip. If I go out of this, that archive page is now going to disappear because it only lives in that version history. So it's gone now. We're back to our plain old usual design guidelines without it. Yeah. So that's a really nice way of just managing things that you don't necessarily want to get rid of, but you don't want them to be cluttering up your final file. And you can just name it as a way to say, okay, let's just go back to that version history. Let's see what we did there. Maybe it's worth revisiting that. Okay, I think that's about it. I've been talking for a long time.
That's awesome. I wonder if there are any... Okay. Go.
Yeah, I can comment on this one. Yeah, we gave it a try, but yeah, I'm not sure what your kind of worms are, but yeah. We gave it a try. I'll put it that way. We just generally leave it up to front-end developers to map color variables and styles in the way that they prefer, because we might be using different CSS approaches in different projects, because we're not prescriptive about that either. So yeah. Also, it's also paid, if I'm not mistaken, when you need to use it for quite serious big things. I'm not entirely sure, but yeah, we just leave it up to developers to do that, and we just make sure we review those in the PR to make sure they're getting that right. Yeah. Yes, exactly. That was exactly why we kind of got rid of it and rather left that in the code as an update, which was much easier, honestly, than having to rerun all of that. Yeah, I mean, Figma introducing variables and all of that has been quite half-baked. Yeah, I don't think they're gonna. When it first came out, I think people got super excited about it. Oh, this is a really easy way now to create these kind of mappings and things, but it hasn't turned out that way. Yeah, I think we need to keep an eye on it. Yeah. But yeah, anytime you add a plugin that you then become dependent on, you're dependent on that plugin. And yeah, so a careful decision.
Cause issues later down the line.
Potentially. Yeah. You never quite know. Yeah.
Okay. I wonder if there's any other questions.
If they allowed you to export the variable, yes, indeed, that would be super nice. Yeah, would solve a lot of problems. We wouldn't need any plugins to do that. Yeah, but unfortunately, right now you can't do it in Figma. Yeah. You have to do it all manually.
I think the thing that is the nicest for me about setting this up, and it's something that is not only applicable to design, I think it's applicable to everybody who works in an organization where other people have to interact with your work, is making
absolutely.
that interaction with your work as easy as possible for them to do. It just creates that or removes that friction points and makes everything nice and clear.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's really important also just to stress that we spend a lot of time making our Figma as as organized as possible. And we do weekly reviews twice a week. We have design reviews, and part of that is like, okay, let's put that aside. It can go here. We don't need it anymore, and so on. It's all part of that process. Twice a week we do that. But we also believe that it doesn't matter how good your Figma design system is, or how well structured it is, or how beautiful your UI might look. and so on if the front-end developers don't know what to do with it. Yeah,
Exactly.
because your ultimate, your Figma is the source of truth for design, but the ultimate source of truth is the front end. And I say that also with my front-end developer hat on. But if we aren't translating things properly in a front-end process, we may as well not be bothering with this in Figma. Yeah, so it's all hand in hand. Yeah. And developers need to be involved all the time. Yeah, as part of design reviews, part of
Are they in your design reviews, the developers? Is it? Okay.
And whenever we're doing sprint planning, designers and developers together in Figma, mapping things out.
Okay.
Yeah, this is great. Something that's I've been meaning to look into for ages and just actually never have time is the API stuff. But yeah, this is a great thing to do. Just need, again, just maybe Kevin, refresh my memory. Is the API available to everyone on organizational plan, or is it enterprise only? I haven't looked into it in a long time. But yeah, I mean, if you can just do that, that's perfect. Yeah. I just haven't delved into the API enough. But yeah, perfect solution. I mean, almost all plugins and things are working on using those kinds of things. Yeah. All plans should work. Great. Definitely something to look into. Is how you can manage the API. I know things like now I can't remember the name of the company, but they work a lot with Storybook. They work a lot via syncing your designs into what is it called? I can't remember. It doesn't matter. But there is a way to keep your front end and your Figma files completely in sync. But again, it's third-party things that you need to pay for down the line.
I wonder if it might be valuable to do a Storybook talk. We use it.
Yes, I think so.
We'll have a bit of a. We'll check on the community, but
Skulk's a big Storybook user as well, so we can definitely put something together. Yeah. Yeah. We use Storybook in every project. Yeah. Our designs get built as components in our Next.js application, and every single one has a story accompanying it.
Yeah. Okay. And just holistically in terms of design tools, once you've invested so much time into something like Figma and it's so well set up, how hard would you think about changing that?
You mean to another tool?
To another tool.
Oh, yeah. It's a good question. Yeah. It wouldn't be easy to do that. I think you see, Figma is quite quirky in the way it structures things, because it's not a file-based system. It's a teams-based system on an organizational level, whereas we kind of used to file-based systems. We have a project and there's a bunch of files in it, but your high level is actually a team. So that is quite different to how we might normally think of structuring things. Yeah. I don't know. It's a good question.
It would have to be really good, and
it would need to be,
probably need to show that it's got a little bit of longevity as well.
Yeah, I mean there is an open source free kind of Figma competition in Pen part, which is, I mean, they're doing really good things. Honestly, I haven't looked at them recently, but yeah, there is some competition. Whenever Figma does something that people don't like, then there's like, oh, we're moving to Pen part or whatever, but no one ever does, And there is Sketch, of course, but Sketch still has its devotees, still going strong. But Figma's gone all in on dev mode, yeah, and they're going to sink or swim on that, I think. Yeah. Because Sketch is great, but you need a third-party service for like dev mode. You need Steplearn or something like that, because Sketch doesn't have that integration. Yeah, I mean, Figma dev mode now, you can open things directly in VS Code. You can view your Figma designs in VS Code. It auto-completes things for you. It gives you all the CSS properties. So there's a lot of integration there. And then there are developer plugins that Figma themselves have developed for React, Angular, Vue, iOS, Swift. That, I mean, obviously they're not foolproof in any way, but they give you an immediate starting point just for creating, as a developer, creating components directly from dev mode.
And although it's expensive,
interesting things.
It's not close to the Adobe Suite or Creative Cloud. And
no, not at all. Yeah.
And it's definitely, looking at it, worth every penny and more. So you definitely don't feel cheated unless you don't listen to Justin about the viewer restricted.
Yes, and then get very upset, because you will get very upset. Yeah. No,
I just want to say on the I deal quite deeply with the invoicing part. I think with the organizational one and True Up, and I could be wrong in terms of how this works, but I haven't made a mistake yet. You can, after the billing period, in that 3 months before they do the True Up, they give you an opportunity to do a cleanup.
Yes, they do. Yeah.
And they run that every 3 months.
Yeah.
So if I added, we just had our True Up date just passed, like on the 8th of January. So I normally have a meeting. I have a meeting with the team the day before the True Up. Then we go through and we go, what can we take off? What can't we take off in terms of members? Members, you can go up and down on the sort of role they have. You don't lose anything. So you can play around with it unless you remove them completely. So what I tend to do is, and it happens, like we have a team and somebody is collaborating and they're going to use Figma now for a week. And they're not again where they actually have to edit and contribute in that manner for months. So I will just go and I will check, like, how devastating would it be if I downgraded them for the day? I downgrade them. I let the billing run. You actually have to go into Figma and say that you've checked it and you're okay, because once they run it, they don't reverse it.
No, they won't.
Yeah. So they give
once you finalize the invoice,
you finalize the invoice yourself and they make you press the button. So if you made a mistake, they're going to say you did it. But then you do that, and then just a day or two later, I can add them again. I can let them complete their work and just make sure I check it again before the next True Up. It's the first time in my life of all the tools and services I've ever used where True Up is a thing. But it does give you that little bit of play, because $45 per person for a year is a costly mistake. If you're a smaller organization. So
and it will be 55.
It's not a small change. Yeah.
It will be 55 as of
55. Yes.
March the 11th.
Here's another comment from Kevin.
Oh, that's great. Thanks, Kevin. Yeah, definitely something worth looking into. Save a lot of time there. Next talk on using the Figma API.
Noted. Okay, cool. Is that it?
I think so. I don't think there's anything else. There are no more comments or questions. Yeah, I'll if anyone's interested, I'll just share the link to those slides that outlines the structure we follow and everything in the Discord. Just give everyone. I'll just make it viewable.
That would be super nice. I think if we just start off right.
Yeah. Look, I mean, it took ages to get this working, and lots of trial and error on how to structure things, and then it's also a lot of work to maintain. You can easily let it go if you're not keeping an eye on it. Because it's super tempting to just go and say, oh, I just want to quickly do a bit of design experimentation here, and then you do it, and then it's if I see someone's created a file and they haven't added a cover, I'm like commenting, this file needs a cover. So it's a lot of maintenance in that sense, but ultimately worthwhile.
And as you said in the beginning, like you structure these things based on the type of work that you have to do. Your work,
yes.
There's just no world in which your work can be a mess. Like there's just no place where that can work,
Yeah. I mean, but just as I said in the beginning, like we structure our teams around clients. But that may not be the right way for you. You might have a product, and then you might structure your teams around kind of a line of business,
yes,
within your product, but the same principles
apply.
Same principles apply. You might have an app, a website, a desktop app, an Android, iOS, whatever. You might structure it that way for your teams, but the way they work together is largely the same. Same principles.
Okay. Thank you. That's always nice to see.
Right.
That's Monday wrapped.
That's Monday. Monday is done.
Last week of January. Here we go.
It can't be. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, thanks everyone. Thanks, Liesel.
Thank you. Bye.
We'll see you at the next one.